All right, I don't know how the Warriors won that game, but they won the game. Brian and I are joined by Demone Carter, who Demone and I know a bunch of people. We're connected, but I've never chatted with you before outside of our Facebook group. So welcome to the Death Lineup. Very happy to have you on here.
Good to
and
be here.
guys, it's just that was one of the poorest playoff performances I've ever seen the Warriors have in a victory. They've had some bad losses before in the playoffs, but in a victory now, that they would do this sometimes against a team like Portland, where you're like, okay, Portland, maybe we'll give them one here. But Memphis is so tough, and to have this opportunity to go ahead of them, missing their best player, it almost seemed like the Warriors were taking that for granted. So, but let's get into it. Let's talk about this game. The first point that I want to chit chat about is obviously this is important because there's a health perspective to it. Just Steve Kerr, about 2 hours before the game started, was I guess I don't know when he tested positive, but he tested positive for COVID-19, so he's missing today, and I believe he's missing the next game as well, right? Did you hear about that, Brian?
I haven't heard about it.
I did not. I would assume though, but I mean, this brings up implications of like, okay, how close was he to the players? Because he's a coach, he's on the bench, you don't like, can anyone, that's why this was a must win,
right?
Because you don't know who's going to be available in game 5.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that he got it in the locker room or he spread it in the locker. He could have got it in other places. We'll have to they'll figure out the contact tracing piece of that. But from the perspective of, now you both have played sports before, sometimes the coaching from the perspective of inspiration, sometimes people will roll their eyes at that stuff, right? But I think what Steve Kerr brings to the Warriors, just from a leadership perspective, is every scenario that the Warriors have been in from the playoffs, he has been in that scenario as a player as well, playing next to the greatest player in basketball history, right? So that's part of it, where if it's like, okay, we're up 2-1, they just lost their best player, we cannot let our foot off the gas, right? It's easy to let your foot off the gas. You're kind of going into this game a little bit like, is this going to be as tough of a game as if Ja would have played? Well, no, but it doesn't mean that you come out as slow. And I thought, nothing against Mike Brown, because he didn't do anything wrong. He couldn't have fixed anything. But I wonder if with Kerr, if they start as slow and sluggish as they did. But that's kind of my first thing. Bri, will go to you, and then Demone will bring you in. Do you think any of the poor play had to do with Kerr being out?
I feel like we should give a little shout out though to Mike Brown, the new Sacramento Kings head coach.
Yes,
the Sacramento Kings, the rehabilitation center or something for the Warriors assistant coaches to try to make their name as a
Luke
coach.
Walton, baby.
Walton, Alvin Gentry. Now we got Mike Brown, but that's definitely a fair argument. I just wanted to chalk this one up to like people being out of rhythm. Memphis defense, I think, even though Memphis defense was making them uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Even though Steph was like second guessing wide open shots, I think it was maybe because he thought someone with these lengthy, almost 7-foot arms were going to be kind of close to bothering the shot. And I mean, I know we'll get to it, but you could see that, not having Dylan Brooks in games 2 and 3 defensively, it does help the Grizzlies having them defensively, but everything he does offensively, just completely, if I was the Grizzlies, I would want him not on the floor.
Yeah, 100%. And, we are going to talk about Dylan Brooks. He is very heavy into the third point for me. But Demone, from the perspective of, what Brian said, trap game, right? Like sometimes
totally
trap game.
Totally.
Now, I'm not saying Kerr could have stopped them from coming out like they did. Even Steph Curry in the post game was like, the offense came out bad. I came out bad. It was, but to Brian's point, the Grizzlies defense also, they played like there's no tomorrow, and that was a big part of what the Warriors did. But what is, does Kerr not being there have any effect, a little bit of effect from your perspective?
I think Steve Kerr not being there for one particular game doesn't mean a whole lot, in the sense that this team has like real championship pedigree and cats who have been there before. I think this was a game where the Warriors exhaled. It's just a game where you knew Ja Morant wasn't playing. Memphis is on the ropes. They just got smoked by 30. A lesser team than Memphis comes out and they lay down, and this game is over at the end of the second quarter. But let's be real. Memphis is a younger, hungrier team, and even though they don't have the offensive firepower, they can still make the Warriors uncomfortable. And I think that's just going to be the nature of these playoffs. As far as the Warriors are going to be able to go, is can they survive nights like this? Because the shots are not always going to go. It's the classic basketball adage of a jump shooting team. The shots are not going to go every night. Can you still grit it out? Can you get a foul call here? Can you get a stop, a steal? And the Warriors did that. I'm not going to say I knew it, but it had all the markings of young, hungry team, fights all the way down, and then they don't understand how to close, because how could they, right? So I would,
especially without their closer.
Yeah, exactly. But I will say this, and I don't want to hijack any of the narratives tonight, but I will say this: it begs questioning that the Grizzlies play pretty well without Ja Morant. they in the regular season they did it, and I didn't understand how that happened. I don't have league pass or anything. I saw tonight, it's like, oh, when there's not just a singular guy at the top every time driving and kicking the ball, more people get involved. They were legit dangerous tonight. So Steve Kerr or no, the Warriors survived a trap game like a true Indiana Jones swashbuckling team that they are.
It's a great point about Ja. I look at it from a slightly different perspective. And that perspective is, sometimes you just watch and you know that he's going to do something. And without having that, now I want to apologize to one Tyus Jones, because on the last show, I was like, Jordan Poole's just going to attack the hell out of him. And it was the opposite. Like, Jordan Poole didn't want to attack anybody. And we'll talk about that as well later in this. But I thought Tyus Jones played a really, really good basketball game. It did not seem like he decided, oh, well, I have some shoes to fill because I have to play better since Ja's not here. I felt like he was like, okay, I need to run this game because if I don't run this team like I know, to the best of our abilities, we don't really have a chance. He was 8 of 18 shooting, 3 of 7 from 3. He played a game high 41 minutes. The high on the Warriors was Andrew Wiggins that played 39 minutes. 5 assists, 6 rebounds. He was a minus 19, or I'm sorry, minus 9. He had 19 points, and some of that was just the Warriors kind of pulling away late. But sort of to what you said, they knew that they had to play a specific way, because the other way that they usually play and are also very successful with was not available. And that was an interesting thing, because they showed character by being able to do that. But it just drove me nuts, because it's like, if you're the Warriors, like, okay, we're up 2-1. We know we got to go back. We know they got 2 more there. So let's just get this game out of the way. Let's play our best bat. And it was the opposite of that. Okay. I had this is my second point here. I'm going to show you guys. Do you know what 45 seconds? Do you know what I mean when I say 45 seconds?
I don't.
Steph Curry makes the second of 2 free throws, and the Warriors take their first lead in the game with 45 seconds left in the game. Yikes. How ridiculous is that? And it was one of those games where, and we're Warriors fans from way back, so we know the rhythm of this team. we sort of know when the game is there for the taking. And the Warriors would get down 2, and then it'd go back up to 5, and then they get down 1, then they go back up to 3. And I was watching, and I was like, okay, they just need one stop. If they get one stop, they're going to smell blood. Steph is going to smell blood, and they're just going to go at it. And so our friend Dylan Brooks, and it's not the right time to talk about him yet. Jim Jackson called it a hero ball 3-pointer. He was short. They get the rebound. Steph goes all the way to the hole, gets fouled, 2 free throws, and the Warriors take their first lead of the game. And it's just crazy how they were hanging in there because, and part of it was there was nobody to hit that home run on the Minnesota side. Like, did you guys see Dylan Brooks' shooting stats?
Yeah. And you could tell too.
He was 3 of where is it?
Was it 19?
5 of 19 shooting, 2 of 9 from 3. And I mean, maybe some of this was,
and take away the last 2. Take away the layup that they just gave him,
and the magical one at the end.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, just think about the psychology of sports. He is partially to blame for them losing game 3 because he was not there. I'm sure in his mind, right? So how do you overcorrect? He's had he didn't do any media, so that tells you, okay, he doesn't want to get out in front of this. It was kind of a big thing. I don't really blame him because the playoffs are nuts. And so how does he come in? He goes, okay, maybe I have to play beyond what I can play. And that is such a trap for people, right? It's like, no, you need to play, as good as you should play and sort of within your means. But without Ja, he was like, okay, like who else is going to take this shot? We talked about Desmond Bane too. And I told Brian in the text, I was like, this is going to be a good Desmond Bane game because how can it not be? Because they don't have Ja. It was not 3 of 8 shooting, 8 points. He
looked like he was limping a lot. Like, the back thing still bothering him.
Desmond Bane, Steven Adams, the only players on the Grizzlies in the plus, though. Steven Adams a plus 13. What the heck? So I just I don't know. The way that the Warriors kind of got back, like Demone said, you can sort of feel when that happens sometimes, but 45 seconds, Bri, when Steph started to get hot, were you feeling like, okay, the Warriors are going to win this game? I was almost feeling like, man, they really don't deserve to win this game. They could steal it, but like, how were you feeling? Did you think that they were coming back here?
I think it was the free throws that put them up, not took the lead, but put them up like another 2 or 3. And I was like, okay, I think they'll win this game. But like, other than that, yeah, I had no faith in them. What did they show me, to make me think they'd win that game? Absolutely nothing besides Steph having a little bit of offensive game in the fourth quarter. But other than that, no, I genuinely did not think they were going to win that game until they went up by like 3 or 4 just by Steph free throws.
Demone, what about you?
Yeah, it was tight, and so I felt like it could have gone either way, right? Like Memphis in games 1 and 2 just hit some ridiculous 3-pointers, and I was kind of bracing for that. Like some guy, like freaking Jaren Jackson, who in the previous series couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, is gonna go 6 for 6. I thought something like that might happen, but I think, just like with the classic championship teams, I often think of these Warriors as the middle-aged Spurs. When the Spurs were middle-aged and you're like every year, like, they don't really have it, but they do 3 or 4 sneaky things down the stretch to steal a game that they shouldn't win. And when you're in the playoffs and every win is so precious, those skills are kind of invaluable. So Steph didn't have it. Like even in his final box score, he didn't have it, but he was able to manufacture it. And what I love about that is it's a very talented team, but he still knows when it's Steph time. You know what I mean? Like when it's really Steph time, when he's really got to do some things to put his team over the top, he does that. And, we're fortunate to be living through that. But I also wouldn't have been terribly surprised if they dropped this one because the shooting was just horrific.
Who's gonna hit that big shot for Memphis? Because when it came down to it, the guy who pulled up was Jaren Jackson. And this man is 7 feet tall, and he got his shot blocked by Draymond. So Draymond sniffed it out. Draymond was in the air before Jaren Jackson probably even knew he was shooting, which was kind of just Draymond's tremendous, just defensive instinct. But Desmond Bane, I would have been comfortable with him shooting that shot, I think. Even like I said, Tyus Jones played excellent. I would have been comfortable with him at least having the ball to make that decision. Zaire Williams, I feel like every time he shoots, the ball's going in, and he only played 18 minutes tonight. So I don't know exactly what was going on with that, because you would think, if you need some buckets, you probably keep him on the floor. And then, I was really worried about Brandon Clark this series because of all the things that he did in the previous series. He only played 11 minutes tonight, so they went away from him quickly, and maybe playing Steven Adams ate into Brandon Clark's playing time. And I know playing Steven Adams was a little bit of a wrinkle. They even played Adams and Jackson together for like a couple minutes there. Brandon Clark is not having his best series, partially because Wiggins is able to outquick him to some of these balls. And also, like, he's going up against the best version of himself, which is Draymond. So tough, but I feel like I still would ride with him rather than trying to do this stuff with Steven Adams. But I mean, they slowed the game down, and that was what they wanted to do, was slow the game down for sure. You have something to say about some Steven Adams, I could see.
You're a Steven Adams hater, man. He's not anything good, like crazy, but I didn't think he was like bad. He got the switches on Steph, Steven Adams on Steph, and Steph still didn't really do anything with it. Like, sure, he would kind of get by him, and it's not like a credit to Steven Adams, like, crazy great perimeter defense. I think it was Steph off night, but Steven Adams didn't have a bad game. No Xavier Tillman tonight, 0 minutes. And then with Brandon Clark, I think it's still like matching Looney with his minutes. And Looney is just like, he got that, like, I don't even know if it was a block or if like Brandon Clark just kind of missed it. It looked like a block, but that was a big play going down the stretch.
So Andrew Baker, who we know, he this point it was going to be my next point, which is Otto Porter. When nobody could make a shot, Otto Porter was making a shot, and Brian shared a photo in our chat, and I added one word to it because we were trying to come up with a nickname. I think last show I said Auto-matic, and what did you call him today, Brian?
I just tried to get alliteration going, and I just said Auto Onslaught, but
okay.
I feel like Automatic's like, it's like classic when you have an auto.
We could just call him Hero, because that's what he was tonight.
Tonight he was.
What was that stat
hero.
that they had up there? It was like Otto Porter Jr. 4 from 6 from 3. The rest of the team like 3 for 26. Like, what
Crazy.
the heck?
Crazy. And he had been mad cold, It's just a testament to the playoffs and like veteran play, right? So he ate all of Kuminga's minutes, and I believe in game 2 there were a lot of folks like, oh, you should give Kuminga more burn. Otto can't do anything, but I feel like it's veterans like him. That's why you go out and get those guys, because down the stretch, Memphis doesn't really have guys like that can come in and give you an 18 points in a playoff game and hit the open threes, which he's going to get. And it's not always going to go this way. So I think it's going to be love and hate with Otto, just kind of same way with Bielitsa. If he hits 3 threes in a row, you love him.
And then when he airballs finger rolls, then you hate him.
Then you hate him, right? So it'll be interesting. But I love Otto Porter in the sense that he's playing the freaking 5 against these mammoth players and coming in and coming up big, because without his contribution, this is like a 10-point loss.
So Andrew made another comment, because when you mentioned who does Memphis have, I immediately think Kyle Anderson. And yes, watching Kyle Anderson play basketball hurts my eyeballs too. But he he played pretty well. The lack of athleticism hurts him, especially when he's got to go up for rebounds against some of the guards like Klay. And even though he's a couple inches taller than Klay and Wiggins, they can just kind of beat him to basketballs. If he makes his stupid free throws, I think they win the game. Like he would, like he just missed a crazy amount of free throws. And then, but that bench play, that guy, and it's so weird because for the second game in a row, and Brian, we'll have a short, very short Kuminga watch here in a few minutes.
Understood.
But for the second game in a row, they start Kuminga, and then Otto Porter starts the second half, so they feel like they need that stability or whatever he brings, and they weren't going to get that from Kuminga. I imagine if Kuminga was if they were winning in the second half, then they probably do put Kuminga back in. All right, so here's my third point. Jordan Poole played poorly, but he didn't play Dillon Brooks poorly. Right? Because like if you think about from the perspective of who are the guys who the Warriors need to cook, Jordan Poole is their second best offensive player. Now, there's an interesting parallel here with Klay Thompson because I just did my San Francisco Giants podcast earlier today, and we were talking about Tim Lincecum, and Tim Lincecum was for 3 years he was the greatest thing on the baseball field, and then he started to fall off, and the fans so desperately wanted him to continue to succeed. Now, Klay Thompson's his resume is much longer than Lincecum's. This injury has caused him to come back, and I don't know if it's an athleticism thing. He seems to be forcing shots in certain windows that maybe he doesn't think he's going to get. But if Klay Thompson is going to continue to hunt for shots and to the effect of 6 for 20 and 0 for 7 from 3, 14 points. I mean, he did rebound. I saw him battling for some rebounds. He had 6 rebounds. But if Klay is not going to make shots, it is a mandatory that Jordan Poole has to start cooking. And he didn't even attempt when Steph went to the bench in those moments where it's like, oh, okay, Jordan Poole's like, I got this, on Warriors plus minus at the end of the game. Last game, they were talking about how Jordan Poole's minutes are so important when Steph and Draymond are off the court because they're actually winning those minutes. And I don't know what that was today, but he was not aggressive. He did not want to shoot. He was doing the same thing that Steph and Klay were doing, which is pump fake because, these guys are flying at you. And I get it. Like, these guys are long and they're stopping that shot. But I thought there were opportunities for him to pull up and shoot. Like, there were opportunities when he was the one out in front with the basketball, and he's never shy about pulling it back. And he pulled it back every single time tonight. I was just like so surprised. On the defensive end, you could tell he was frustrated. They were picking on him. It is not the kind of game that he likes to play, which is this physical inside game. And unfortunately for him, because of how some of those mismatches were, he's kind of in the post having to guard Kyle Anderson. And you could just tell, like, this dude is not having it. He's just like, what am I supposed to do here? And I get it. I get all those things. Very young, but they need him the next game. He cannot play to this level because the Warriors had every card that turned up was for them, and Dillon Brooks playing as poorly as he did was for them. If Jordan Poole has a B- game, I don't think this game is close, but he had a poor game for him, and that allowed, I thought, Memphis to continue to slow the game down, to continue to play this like style that he didn't enjoy. But I know, happy to get out of here with a win, but I do want to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that I thought they did not play very well. Bri, am I picking on Jordan Poole? You said instead of it being
oh, you're ruining my intro.
Okay, go ahead.
I I texted you and I said we usually show the graphic of pool party. Yep, there it is. I said that you should Photoshop it and put in the middle of pool and party, put pool pity party, because he was the kid who struck out for the third time in Little League and put his head down and looked really sad walking to the dugout. Yeah, I'm talking about myself at the same time. But no, I mean, not only was he like having a rough end offensively, like he gets the one-on-one against his buddy, and I was like, oh god, like this is not going to be good going to the rim. Jaren Jackson Jr. is just really good rim protector.
Yeah.
Jaren Jackson Jr. stuffs it. Not only was that going wrong for him, he was also getting put into a Kyle Anderson masterclass.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that was just like the worst of both worlds there. But no, you're not picking on Jordan Poole. He deservingly should get picked on. But I do think that I said it in the last podcast. I said if Ja Morant doesn't play, I think you should have started it with the Fast Five, and I still think you should have.
Interesting point.
You know, you said that you always say that like Poole is like this. You bring him in, he's like fat. He's like immediate fast offense.
He's like the microwave. Like the Pistons had a player named Vinnie Johnson who was the sixth man. They would literally just put him in because he would speed up their offense, and that's who Poole is.
And I mean, like you said as well, I think Poole gets a little bit of a confidence boost when he's in that starting five. I just think you should have done it.
Yeah,
and I didn't think Kuminga was an option. We were saying it was either Poole or Otto, and I thought either would be acceptable. But you know, as much of a Kuminga fan as I am, but I didn't see why they did it again.
Demone, do you feel like? Okay, let me set this up slightly differently.
Okay.
Jordan Poole plays with so much swagger when he's going, right. The confidence, you can see he's having so much fun. He's making all these funny faces, like he's just having a blast. But the flip side of when he's not playing well, it's like the opposite. And so I think the team really feels it when he's going, because they start feeling that way. Like, you know, Steph's got a very quiet swagger, but he's got a crazy confidence. Draymond is very vocal. But if you can get this from Poole, and it just makes those guys get so pumped up, so fired up. You see Andre on the bench, but the flip is that when he doesn't do that, I sort of felt like it brought them down a little bit. I think he has to understand that his energy, both positively and negatively, can affect how they go, because they rely on him so much.
Oh, absolutely. And I feel like that's part of his education, right? That this is his first playoff run. And, you know, much was made of his eagerness to get in the playoff and see what it's like. And I imagine there's something about regulating your emotions and your energy from game to game. And as we saw with Steph tonight, he is a consummate pro. He's been through the fire. When his shot is not going, he figures out a way to kind of still be productive and in the game. When Jordan's shot is not going, he gets a little bit tentative. He gets a little bit, you can tell he's kind of in his head about what he should do. I agree that he seemed to pass up shots that he was taking, especially in the Denver series, that he was just taking no brainer. So I think we have been blessed that his progression has come so far so fast, but it's the NBA. Even the legends that we think of had to get thumped 3 and 4 playoff series in a row before they kind of got their medal together. So I think he will bounce back. I think the team will bounce back. I think when the shots are going in, it begets more shots going in. When Klay's first 2 hit, when he hits his first 2 or 3, he's going. When he misses a couple in a row, he presses. And I think more than anything, I think that's what drags them down, is that when these shots that we typically make, those don't fall. I think they press a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. They rely on the non-Steph guys to kind of keep the blood pumping, because they know if it's all about Steph, and Steph is going to play, like that guy was playing so hard in that fourth quarter. He had a little bit of the kind of putting his head down too, that where they beat him back on defense because he was frustrated. But when you can get Klay hot, and then if Poole can get hot, it just takes so much pressure off of Steph, and you can tell that that's when Draymond's like, "Oh, now I have options. Now it's like I can move this basketball like anywhere I want. Like it's like a joystick. He's like playing a video game." I wanted to throw one more comment out there that Andrew made. Just Draymond was playing for former teammate, passed away today, and that's I'm sure he had some emotions also on his mind with what happened to Adrian Payne. And then so Steph gets the call here. Push in the back. Steph goes flying.
You don't know how hard Bane pushes. You haven't been pushed by Bane, Drew.
Bane's got some big arms, man. He's kind of buff. But so they they squeak. They're lucky to win this game. I think they know it, and I hope going to Memphis, it's good. These Memphis. They're going to go so hard in this game, and I hope the Warriors are prepared for it because Ja or no Ja. Andrew says he knows how it feels because he's been pushed by you.
That's what friends are for.
Okay, so last part, and then we'll talk a little bit about some of the other games going on. But Bri, I think we're gonna have to do it here. It's the Kuminga watch. He started again. We got him going. We got him in the game. Did he shoot? I didn't even know what he did.
He did not. He did not.
It's do you know gosh, I forget the guy's name, but he was a former college basketball player at Ohio State. He played with Greg Monroe and Mike Conley, I think. And he created a Twitter account called Club Trillion because his box score would read 1 and then all the zeros after because he only got in at the end of the games. And so he called it Club Trillion. And he created like he's a college basketball guy. He has a podcast. They were actually on The Ringer early on, and then they moved off. But Club Trillion, that was Kuminga's stat line today. He had 5 minutes and just a bunch of zeros. So he may have had like a rebound or a foul or whatever. But
he had a rebound and an assist and a block.
Yeah, there you go. But this. Do you think this is hurting him? Do you think this is helping him? He gets the kind of he probably knows an hour or two before the game that he's starting, so he's got to mentally prepare for that. He's kind of getting himself ready, and then he plays and it doesn't go well, and then he gets yanked and he didn't play again the rest of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this helps him, to be honest. Interesting move to start him again after last game's start went so bad, but you could say like, okay, well, he was visibly upset in those early minutes when he was starting, like banging on the floor. Like maybe he was, this time he wouldn't let that happen again. And, pulled after 5 minutes. Damian Lee's getting 13 minutes. I feel like maybe he could have taken some of those, but I don't think starting him was the right call. I already said I think Poole should have started or Otto. I don't know why they started him again. There's not much to say about Kuminga because we probably already talked about him longer than he played.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Damian Lee piece of that, and Andrew was right. It's Mark Titus is the guy who I was thinking about. Titus and Tate is the podcast. They cover college basketball. Those Damian Lee minutes, I guess they feel like he will compete on defense.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably not going to screw up a play. He's going to not be in the wrong area on a switch, more than likely. So that some of that is just like, okay, he's not going to screw up, but he's also not going to shoot. He's not going to be aggressive. He's not going to put the ball on the floor because whenever he puts the ball on the floor, they steal it. They slap it away. So it's this is where the GP injury really hurts because those are GP minutes, and GP has that crazy tempo to his game where he does one thing and it just ignites, them on the other side. I'm looking ahead, and that's probably a bad thing, but if they do wrap this series up and they do play, whether it's a Phoenix or a Dallas, I think the rotation has to shorten because I don't think Damian Lee does anything that would benefit the Warriors outside of, they just need somebody who's not going to screw up because Kuminga, at least the other team has to pay attention to him. And they know that.
I
Okay.
mean,
Okay.
yes,
Go.
yes,
Go.
but,
Go.
but,
Here we go. Go.
But, here for ARP. Damian Lee is a vet who was not gonna screw up.
Mhm.
And I think especially when you're trying to set your defense, Kuminga was confused.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Draymond always has to tell him where to go.
Yeah, so he's playing. Kuminga's up against a top flight defense in a really tough series. He's literally 19. My son is 19. I would have not started him tonight. You know what I mean? Like it's a lot to expect from him. And when you see a player like a Damian Lee, there's a long tradition of cats where you're like, why does Richard Jefferson get 12 minutes? Because they know what they're supposed to do on the floor, and there's a value to that. I think Kuminga has a tremendous upside. I see him doing big things for the Warriors in the future. There are going to be points in this playoff run where he seems completely useless because teams are smarter than that in the playoffs. It's not the regular season where, he's catching people by surprise. They know what he can do.
Mhm.
So he's trying to do the alley-oop and no, they know where you're going, bro. So he's got to develop more, I think, to be depended on in the playoffs. And so I'm also, it's a head scratcher for me why he got the start. I don't mind Damian Lee's minutes so much, although he's got to take an open three.
Yeah.
In the classic tradition of the role player, you got to hustle your ass off and then take that open three. Like you can't pass that up.
You can't be in the Curry family and just be afraid to shoot the ball. Like none of those dudes are afraid to. I feel like his wife will put up that three. So that's a little frustrating. But some of this also, and this is what we've watched this team just go year after year after year after year after year, playoffs. This is his first playoffs as well. So that's something that, we probably tend to overlook. At least I do. But it's only because I'm like, I know I've seen it. And when you see five finals trips in a row and you go, okay, this worked, this didn't work. Having Festus Ezeli out there so LeBron could target him, that doesn't work. So let's not do that again, right?
Right.
And so this was one of those moments where it's like, I'm going to guess that it's just because Kuminga, they probably feel like it's a little bit too big for him, and B, without GP, it kind of falls onto, D Lee. This is where the Moody thing. I wish Moody was just a little bit more wise. Or who knows? Maybe if they move on to the next round, maybe that's Andre's spot. And Andre's not shooting. Andre's not shooting either. But at least you're comfortable with him on the court.
Yeah, I mean, how quick are we to call Damian Lee a vet though? Because like, how long is he? Is this like his fourth year? Third year playing? Year. Do we call JTA a vet? I don't know if I would. This is JTA's third year, I believe. But I understand.
Not compared a vet to the dunk contest, that's for sure.
Compared to Kuminga, yeah, I would say that Damian Lee is not.
I got my JTA shirt on though.
Hey,
that's the guy
who got zero burn tonight.
Yeah, I don't think Damian Lee is. Yeah, no, I'm with you guys. He just needs that's what he was known as, right? With the year where Steph and Klay were down, and it was the D'Lo and Draymond and like D Lee, right? Like Eric Pascal, D Lee was putting up a couple 20s, like probably 25s. He was a scorer. So And I know that can't be completely replicated when you're like the 13th man, but I am a little confused as to why he's being hesitant on a shot, which is probably because he doesn't want to mess up. He doesn't want to get pulled from this rotation.
Right.
But you're gonna stay in this rotation if you shoot it and you make it. So
Yep. If he can make a shot, I would pull back on a lot of that. It is really about him opening up the floor a little bit and shooting it with a little bit of confidence. All right, so we'll head back to Memphis, and we come back on Wednesday, right? It's a quick turnaround. So we'll see what happens with him. He looked to be in pretty good spirits on the bench. Never want to see a guy,
No.
hurt in any way. Plus, he's got such a crazy future for this league. He's going to be a star. He kind of already is a star. Okay, let's turn towards a couple of the other series going on real quick. Boston came back, tied it up with Milwaukee. I didn't get to see any of this game, but that's a series that we all thought was going to go back and forth, right? They were just going to be, you win one, we'll win one. You win two, we'll win one, we'll win another. Like, do you guys have any sense of where you think that series is going, Bri?
are we talking Boston and Milwaukee?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm flip flop every single game. I think I said Bucks in 7 to start. Then I went Celtic, but then I was like, if I hadn't, I think I gave my prediction already a game in because we were late recording our show, and I said I would have gone Celtics, but now I'm going Bucks. It's just so weird. It's because I think Middleton being out is a lot more of an impact. Obviously, everyone thinks it's an impact because he's your second guy, but
yeah,
when the Bucks won game 1, you're like, wait, maybe he's not that like. They could easily do it without him, and it's obviously it's the playoffs. You have time to adjust and realize that how to stop some of the stuff that was working in the game before. Giannis looked gassed today. Tatum coming off of a really bad game, and then I don't know his box score, but he looked like he was having it was a little rough for him until around the third or fourth quarter, and then he kind of went on a little run there.
30 and 13. Giannis was 34 and 18. Jeez.
But there was a play where I think Marcus Smart kind of fell back on Giannis, and they were both just laying on the floor. And there was but Giannis did not come up because he was just taking rest, and then he just went straight to the bench because he was just exhausted. If you have the box score right in front of you, how many minutes did Giannis play?
Let's see here. Giannis played.
Was it like 45?
He played 41.
Okay.
Him and Tyus Jones, man. Drew Holiday also played 40. And then on the Boston side, Tatum and Marcus Smart and Al Horford. Al Horford
is actually the story, man. Jeez.
30 points, plus 20,
crazy.
8 rebounds, 5 of 7 from 3. Wow. How old is Al Horford?
How about to
35.
Say, that's that veteran ball right there. Veteran.
Take note, Damian. Take note, Damian Lee.
Playoff performances. If the Celtics don't win that series, I think they have to be really disappointed. The Bucks offense is really one-dimensional when you really break it down. Celtics have a great defense. They're to me the most feared team coming out of the East. I just think they have so much potential. And so if somehow they don't find a way to win the series, they're going to be kicking themselves because I think the Bucks are there to be taken. Giannis is amazing, but how much can he do? Right? Is he going to average 40 and 15? I think that's what it would take in a 7-game series.
Are the Celtics to you the most feared team coming out, or what about the Bucks plus Middleton? Or are you still saying Celtics?
Well, that's true. If Middleton were to come back and play how he is playing, maybe, but I think the Celtics have a higher ceiling to me just because of these young stars. Like when Tatum is on, he's as good as any all-star. I know he doesn't do it as consistently as some of the names we know, but they are very frightening to me in that sense. Kind of looking forward, but it's been a bludgeoning series. It's gonna be interesting. This is why I don't gamble.
How was Al Horford 35? I remember his dad, Tito Horford, came out of Miami. I don't remember. I think Miami maybe, but yeah, it's crazy. Okay, so Luka was able to tie it up. Chris Paul 23 minutes, 6 fouls, and that's after the game on his birthday where he played pretty terribly. And then the first 2 games, he was brilliant. There's been a lot made about his age and his diet and the way that he plays. I just wonder though, against these, against these good teams, is it going to be like this? Is it going to be a good game, then a bad game, then a good game, then a bad game as the series goes, right? Because this is Chris Paul at his age, 37, playing the full season. Now we're getting into the playoffs, and we saw Chris Paul in that Houston series. He got hurt, and he couldn't finish it out. And maybe if he doesn't get hurt, maybe the Warriors don't win that third title, in the 5 years. But do you guys have any sense? I sort of just feel like it's going to be the home team wins. That's what's happened so far. So you kind of fall into that thought that, it's just going to be home team wins, and obviously Phoenix has the home court advantage there, and they the old adage is that the series doesn't start until the home team loses one game. I don't know. I still feel like Phoenix is just too talented to lose this series, especially based on the experience that they have from last year. This is like, the way that Dallas runs their offense is so, Luka's just the highest usage rate. I wonder if it's like a James Harden usage rate with the way that they play. I don't know. I think Phoenix is too talented to lose this series. But do you think Dallas could win? Pull it out, Bri?
I picked. I think I subtly picked Dallas to win this before the series started, just because of how.
How do you subtly?
Because it was such an unpopular pick. Like I think I might have ended up taking the Suns, but I know I was saying like I wouldn't count out the Mavericks. Like I really think the Mavericks could do it. And then every writer and anyone with a credential was making me feel like I was an idiot for picking this team, because the Suns are the Suns, right? But now it's a tied series, and I just like that the Suns look beatable. I thought that we were coming into these playoffs and this were just going to be on of sweep until they got to the Western Conference Finals, and it's not like that. So it's nice seeing all the series are pretty competitive.
They're doing an interesting thing where Ayton's still playing 32 minutes, but like they played Dwight Powell as their center, but he only played 10 minutes the last game. So they just went spread them out, and so that kind of nullifies Ayton a little bit. But they didn't just pull him out of the game. They did play him his normal minutes, but he was a -15 in that game. CP in his 23 minutes, he was only a -3, so he didn't play poorly, but he couldn't stay on the court. What do you think, Dimon?
Yeah, I'm 45, and like sometimes I wake up and after sleeping wrong, and I'm hurt. You know what I mean? So I think what Chris Paul does and has done is amazing. I was watching the 15 for 15 game and just marveling at what a polished NBA pro can do when he's in his bag. Yeah. But I think what happens with age is it's just hard to summon that on a regular basis. And my knock on the Suns, even when they're playing really well, is their offense revolves around a 37-year-old point guard. And I just think in a long playoff run, that's going to come back to bite you. I like to see Chris Paul be successful, not at the Warriors' expense, but every year he breaks down. Let's just be real. Like every year, even going back to the Clippers days, you get deep in the season and he would break down. And so it's unfortunate. I don't like to see anybody be hurt or kind of, come up lame every year. But I think that's going to be Phoenix's downfall. I'm not sure if it'll come in this series. Luka is an amazing player, and I think Dallas, as far as he can take them, they'll go. But I don't know if that's 4 games against the Phoenix Suns. But I am with Bri in that I hope it is long and drawn out and arduous. And Phoenix is very tired at the end of it.
Yeah, no, 100%. Also, Booker had a good shooting night. Not a great shooting night, but a good shooting night. And I think, in these games where, maybe Chris Paul isn't his best, that's where Book has to take over. And he did somewhat, he especially went to the line so often. But you kind of wonder, like, he's the one that had the pulled hamstring too. So that's a little bit, that's what I'd be worried about if I was a Suns fan. All right, last series for us to just quickly catch up on. 76ers also tie it up. So the Warriors, the only series to have gone to 3-1. Every other series is tied at 2. And you have Embiid with the mask, and James Harden turned back the clock. He had a James Harden-like game.
He did.
Like, the shooting was there, the three-pointers were there, the free throws were there, 9 assists, 7 rebounds. This was like James Harden, the James Harden that we all had seen, years over and over and over in the playoffs for the Warriors. To me, this series is based on 2 things. Obviously, Embiid being on the court. He's not what is he going to be, the runner-up for the MVP? Do we know?
It's got to be.
I mean, he's had such a tremendous season. He's so valuable. As long as he can play and he can be out there, just his presence is so valuable. I think the series is about another guy who is not quite as old as Chris Paul, but Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry, not 100%, obviously. If this is not a playoff, he's probably not playing. But if he's going to play 30 minutes a game, he's got to be a good player. And he's got these young guards that 76ers have. And I think, he needs to sort of be that quarterback on this team. And if he's not healthy, I do think Philadelphia can come and steal this, because there's some momentum with Joel Embiid. He's the Willis Reed game of the series, coming with the mask. And I don't know, can you inspire James Harden? Is he inspirable? Like, does he care? But I just know that, just Embiid's presence, he was a completely different player. So I don't know. I'm kind of thinking Philadelphia can win this series now, when I thought it was done when Embiid got hurt. Bri, what do you think?
It was nice to see Harden kind of, I wouldn't say he's rewritten a narrative at all, but, the narrative behind him is, back against the wall, he doesn't really show up. And I think I think that their backs against the wall, down 2-1 in a series, and he showed up. I think there's a lot of things that are going wrong with the Miami Heat, though. And obviously Kyle Lowry is one missing the first 2 games, just like Embiid. And then now he's coming back playing big minutes, but obviously isn't 100% healthy. My buddy Obi, who's been on this podcast, is a Heat fan. And, like Damone was saying, jump shooting teams, they'll go cold. The Heat we're like the best 3-point shooting team this year. And they had a game. They literally had a playoff game where I think they only had 73 points. I'm trying to find, 79 points to the Sixers 99 for the Sixers to win game 3. So, I think there's a lot of things that Duncan Robinson's DMP every single night. And like, if you want someone who could shoot, I know he's going to maybe hurt you defensively, but if you need a couple points, I don't know why they're not even just testing it. They're playing a lot of Victor Oladipo. Victor Oladipo was closing because it looks like Kyle Lowry, I guess, is just too hurt, but Victor Oladipo doesn't help you from 3. Harden was cooking him. I wouldn't say Victor Oladipo was like bad though. He's pretty, I think he's, finding his game a little more.
He's also coming off of so many injuries too.
I know.
His athleticism is nowhere near what it was when he was the Oladipo that everyone fell in love with.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler's been awesome though.
Yeah, he had 40.
Jimmy Butler has been pretty dang good. So I mean, we'll see.
Him.
My thing on this series is whoever wins game 5 is going to win the series. If the Sixers win game 5, it means that the Heat haven't made the necessary adjustments to either. Maybe they're not game planning against Harden because they think he's just going to not replicate that success, or, they haven't figured out Embiid, or their shooting's not there. And if the Sixers win, it's like, okay, we were the better team and let's keep it moving. I just think whoever wins game 5, because if the Sixers win game 5, that is in Miami, and then they get to go back to Philadelphia. I think they win game. They would win game 6. That's my opinion on the series. Whoever wins game 5 is winning it.
If James Harden is smart, he will bust his ass in this series because the Philly fans are so damn unforgiving. But if he does, he will be a literal legend. I don't even think they have to win. If he plays like 3/4 of the James Harden that used to terrorize us, he will become a beloved Philly legend. I don't know that if that's going to happen in this series. The fact that MF Embiid is playing right now is amazing. I think you can't understate that. All the time hockey fans talk about how soft basketball is and blah 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 blah. If I break my orbital, guys, I wouldn't come on this podcast. I would not.
You wouldn't be able to.
I would be laying under the table.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
you would.
I think Philly's grit and determination and the star power. If Harden can do, like if he cares, it's that kind of the basketball Randy Moss. If Harden cares, he's an amazing player. So we'll see.
It's kind of interesting to think that Philadelphia is the team that you're kind of rooting for because you want to see Embiid, get there. And this is the team who was about the process, and we were like, get these guys out of here. They're like ruining the league, and now they're kind of the underdog that you want to root for. So it's a interesting pivot there. So the games for the rest of this week here. So tomorrow night, we have, like Brian said, in Miami, 76ers and Heat, and then Mavericks back in Phoenix. And then on Wednesday, it's Boston and in Boston, the Bucks, and then the Warriors in Memphis. All right, we're going to get out of here, but one prediction I want from you guys, like we all pretty much believe the arena is going to be crazy. If the Memphis, if their fan base feels like they have a shot to do something, I think it's going to be raucous. It might be, Twitter might be a dangerous place for a couple days, as it was. I'm kind of trying to stay off, but how do the Warriors come out in Game 5? So it sounds like Kerr will at least miss this second game as well. Mike Brown, he's not like he hasn't coached in the playoffs before, so I'm sure he was pretty fired up for that moment. But do the Warriors make any changes? Do we see a change in starting lineup? How are they going to attack a team that we know just wants to slow them down, wants to muck up the game? That's to their advantage, especially if Ja's not playing. Damone, we'll start with you. Do you sense that the Warriors do anything different to try and have a start that is the opposite of what happened tonight?
Look, Coach Kerr is lying down on the couch with his Kleenex by his side, texting Mike Brown right now about getting Kuminga out the starting lineup. Like that is something. If we're talking about predictions, I think they'll definitely move off of Kuminga, put Poole in the starting lineup, as Bryce mentioned. And really, they could put this team away, I think, with 2.5 quarters of really error-free, turnover-free basketball.
Don't be telling Draymond that, man.
Yeah,
Draymond wants to throw that basketball around.
It's high stakes passing. I get it. But Memphis is really hip to what a lot of the things the Warriors want to do. In Game 3, they simplified things. You know what I mean? A lot of drives to the basket. And so if they come out with a more sensible starting lineup and really an attack mode, I think you can make this team panic. They're still young. Who knows if Ja plays, and if he plays, how well will he play? I do think it's Dubs are going to close this out, but it'll probably be tough for half the game at least.
Bri, you called it on Instagram, the BAM Pods, the BAM Pod on Instagram. You put your video out. You said the Warriors were going to win in 5. That was before this game started. For all but 45 minutes of this game, I thought you had jinxed them. So you're still staying with that prediction?
If the Warriors don't win the next game, what the hell are we doing out here, man? But I'm with Damone here. I think that's the change you make in the starting lineup. You go Poole. I mean, it does beg the question, like we had from the last pod going into this game, was, well, it kind of differs if Ja Morant's playing or not. It kind of does, but I think if he's playing, he's not at 100% or probably within 15% of 100%. So I think it would be kind of messed up, but I feel like if he plays, target him, pick and roll.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you throw in Kuminga then and go
Yank his knee.
go at him.
Oh,
Just kidding.
God.
Just kidding.
Okay, well, we gotta end it. We gotta. But I think from Memphis's side, I feel like you can point at a quick adjustment there, which is, hello, Mr. Dylan Brooks. You will not be getting 39 minutes this game. More Zaire, I guess, but
Yeah.
they need to. That's as much as we are faulting Dylan Brooks for that. Like, Taylor Jenkins, man, what the heck are you doing?
You know, I don't know what their rotations were all season with him. I wish there was an easy way for me to look at their season stats. But you know, if Bane is gutting it out, he's gutting out those 36 minutes a game. You know, Zaire, Kyle Anderson, Zaire, Brandon Clark has been a zip. You know, who didn't play much was D'Anthony Melton. It's kind of an interesting decision. He only played 9 minutes. So maybe, yeah, you know, maybe just by, you know, kind of putting Brooks in better situation. But you know what? This is the kind of game that he should excel in, right? It's a low scoring game. He's the Steph stopper. He just likes to be physical with Steph. You kind of give him that identity that Steph, you know, okay, Steph's your guy. You just follow him everywhere. And it, you know, he feels that that's him. He's probably the type of player also that you take some of that away from him and he's not as dialed in. I mean, who would be? That's your identity. Not to say that's a character fault or anything. I just think, you know, people get inspired in different ways. All I would say, I don't know if you don't give him those minutes. I would just say, dude, whip the ball around. You know, like you don't have to be Ja. Like it's a collective thing as far as us is going to be able to win this game is a collective scoring. I have one prediction. And that is that I think we're going to see a little bit of a Grizzlies meltdown. And I think the calls will probably be pretty tight because I think the referees are going to know that, you know, the crowd's going to be raucous. The way for Memphis to stay in this series is to be physical. I think they're going to call the game to make sure that it doesn't get out of hand, you know. And I think that could be to their detriment. I think we could see a Jaren Jackson fouling out kind of game because, again, young guy, he's playing. This is the biggest, biggest scene he's ever played in, and what a talented dude he is. But I do think the Warriors' sort of experience in this moment, Draymond kind of trolling probably some of the Grizzlies, you know, kind of needling them a little bit. I think they're going to close it out, but I think we're going to see a little bit of a meltdown there. And also Taylor Jenkins, you know, 37-year-old coach, comes from that Spurs system. So I don't know the line that he said about, you know, the bringing up the Jordan Poole thing. I don't think that was to their benefit. I think it gave them an excuse. And I don't know if I want to give my team an excuse to lose a game. So that's an interesting thing too. So, but I think Warriors are going to close it out, experience, and I think some of the Grizzlies are probably going to be a little frustrated leaving that court. So I don't want to see it come back to Oracle, but Joe Lacob probably does because they get another payday, they get another full arena. Last thing, you've been to Oracle before. You both have been to Oracle before.
Mm-hmm.
Chase Center crowd
sucks. Absolute trash. Good for the first minute or two when I was like, okay, Dylan Brooks is gonna get this ball. They better completely go crazy and boo him, right? And it was a little slow, but then it got pretty loud. But you know, I understand that this Warriors game until maybe the fourth quarter didn't give you much to cheer for. But when your team's, you know, at the lows, you got to cheer for them as much as you do when they're at the highs. That's where I will stand by. So
Yeah,
Man,
Chase is
would
a
love
bank
to.
lobby. Let's just be real. Chase Center is a bank lobby. That's the whole look and feel. And so I'm not sure if you're ever going to get that same culture. You won't. That was a unique experience. I think the Chase Center fans do a great job of like cosplaying like hardcore Warrior fans. Like they know the Warriors chant, right? But they say it at the wrong time. You know what I mean? They knew they were supposed to boo Dylan Brooks, but they kind of forgot by the third quarter.
It was a little slow, yeah.
Yeah. It was very interesting. But you know, that's what you do. You know, they gentrified the stadium, and so this is what you get.
All right, tell the people you do a podcast as well.
Yes.
Tell people where they can hear your podcast.
You can hear the Dad Bod Rap Pod wherever you get your podcast content. We are a podcast that is talking about rap music, arguing about the greatest rap records of all time. We talk to rappers new and old every week. I've talked to people like Too Short, Corrupt, Del the Funky Homo Sapien, just to name a few. And we have a lot of fun doing it. Not unlike this podcast, kind of just tossing it around. We call it the 3-man weave. Talking about rap music. So it's Dad Bod Rap Pod, wherever you get your podcast content.
Are you ready for Kendrick?
Yes, I spent my first 3 hours after work talking about Kendrick. So it a lot of excitement going into this weekend.
I am pumped.
And if you're pumped about stuff like that, this is the podcast for you.
Sweet. All right, Bri, what do you guys? What's up with the BAM?
Same old football, baseball, basketball.
Did you guys just drop your basketball pod?
We did. It was a two-man weave. So really just give and go, you know. It was just me and Obi, the other guys, Max college finals. Alex had I didn't watch games 2 and 3 syndrome, so he didn't feel comfortable talking about the podcast. But then me and Obi were like, hey, in the beginning, I was like, hey, Obi, did you watch all 82 games for every single team? He's like, no, I didn't. And I was like, exactly. And we talked about that like we did. So, you know, that's the second time I've bagged on him for that. But
Alex,
so yeah,
shade.
Make sure to follow us at the BAM Pod on Instagram.
Yeah, and then they can watch your Warriors in 5 video. Have you gotten any hate on that one yet?
No, I just wanted people to get mad. I thought that the hot takes and getting people pissed off was going to get me views, and I think it was just there. You know, with social media, there's specific times you got to post it at. And I was jumping the gun because the playoffs is so weird that usually the times you want to post it at are actually not the times anymore because you're in the middle of a Mavs Suns game in the third quarter and people aren't watching on their phones; they're watching the game. So we just got to figure it out.
All right. Thanks to folks who are listening. Thanks to Andrew as well for sending us some comments. Mark Nobita and Robert Ramos. Thank you guys. So we'll be back on Wednesday night, and we'll either have good news closing out the series, or we'll be frustrated and having to come back on Friday. But all right. So thanks to Demone for hanging out with us. Obviously for Bri. I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.